And members of the media who may be watching. We have all our councillors present, as well as our CEO, Rob Philpott, and our Director for Tech Services, Aaron McDonald, and Linda from Tech Services as well. Okay, at this point, I'll turn it over to the Chair of the Planning Board, Councillor Brian McFeely.
I thank you, Your Worship, and welcome all to the Planning Board meeting of October 14th. And we'll call the Planning Board meeting to order. First thing on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. We have one item on the agenda, which is a recommendation street name, subdivision off Spruce Drive. So if we could have a motion to approve that, moved by Councillor Adams, second by Councillor Ramsey, that the agenda be approved as circulated. And just for the members of the public, the Planning Board consists of Councillor Ramsey, Councillor Adams, the Mayor, and myself, and those are the voting members of Planning Board. Other councillors, we certainly welcome and encourage their input and questions, but and anything the Planning Board does is really a recommendation back to full council, and that would happen at the next council meeting. So we'll move into the recommendation. So the subject is a street name for public street. The supporting explanation, the purpose, to name a public street off Spruce Drive. Background, the owner, developer Abbott and Langell Plumbing, Heating and Electrical, Inc. wish to propose a name that is not on the approved street name list. The proposed name for the public street is Langell, and the street suffix will be Court. The name is Langell. The name Langell is put forth in honor of the family name Langell and is the last name of the property co-owner and developer, Brody Langell. And the map is showing the court is off of Spruce Drive is attached to the document, Your Worship. So the report has required under the Emergency 911 Act, the city is a designated municipality and is responsible for assigning civic addresses. A public road must be named if it provides access to 3 or more improved properties, as per Schedule B, street naming policy. On the site development and subdivision, any person who wishes to use a name that is not on the approved street name list shall make application to council, and council shall approve or deny by simple resolution. The proposed street name was forwarded to PEI 911 Administration Office, and there is no conflict with any existing street names within the city's police and or fire service areas. The proposed street name Langell was forwarded to the street naming committee, which consists of the chief of police services, the director of fire services, and the development officer. The committee reviewed the name and recommended the name be approved. The proposed street name Langell is being forwarded to the Planning Board for their review and recommendation. The Planning Board recommendation, whether carried or defeated, will be brought forward for council for a final decision. So the recommendation from Planning Board is that this application bear the recommendation of the Planning Board. So I'd ask for a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Ramsey, seconded by Councillor Adams. And just before we vote, I would open the floor for any discussion or comments. Your Worship.
Just a question, Mr. Chairman, and I believe you read it there. It did go before the street naming committee. Is that we had a street naming committee set up a couple of years ago?
That was a street naming review committee. I can't remember the official name for it at the time, but I chaired it. I remember that.
Yeah.
But
so
that was to develop that list of names that we have that developers can use to name streets, and if they don't want to use one of those names, then they go through this process.
And you had mentioned the street naming policy, so it fits within all of our policy and our naming.
Yeah, and certainly, as if I can comment, as the chair of the committee that researched all the names, and I think we have about 40 names in that data bank of streets that were outstanding citizens of the city or in honor of the different industries, the fox industry and the fishing industry and all those kinds of things. I think we've had 3 or 4 of these in the last year probably that new streets that were named, and none of those streets were named from the list that's been developed. So it's disappointing because there was a lot of time put into the research and the
Right.
development of that. And I understand developers that, you know, they're putting the dollars on the table and want to,
That's right.
and you know, certainly have a right to propose names. I understand that, but it is disappointing that we're not getting the opportunity to honor the industries and, you know, heritage folks and citizens who had contributed significantly to the city in the past. So
Just one final question.
just a comment for the record, I guess.
Just my final
Your worship.
question. I'm just wondering, how many lot subdivision is it?
8 semis and 2 in the back there.
Yeah.
Multi-unit?
Multi-unit.
Thank you.
Councillor McDougall, I guess, was
Yeah,
first.
no, I just wanted to say I took a drive-in by there yesterday. The subdivision looks good, and I have no problem with the name, so I support the name. Thanks.
Councillor Ramsey.
I agree with Councillor McDougall. I have no problem with the name. That's the first time, can you just, yeah, okay. Yeah, keep that for the record. But I have no problem with the name either. I think I just see Summerside growing, and it's exciting, and hopefully we will have lots of opportunity to use those names that are on the list, you know, as well. Yeah, thank you.
Councillor
I know,
Adams.
Your worship, you had mentioned like using the names that are in the list that the committee got together. I think probably would be important to remember when we're doing ones like the Eco Park or city projects that we make sure we take from those then especially.
That's a good point.
Thank you.
Councillor Campbell. Pardon me? Just the committee vote. The recommendation would go to council. I don't know if this, yeah, it has to go to council. Yeah.
If you want to have a question or comment, I would imagine the chairman would allow it.
Always.
Yeah.
Okay, no, don't see any of the lights on, so we'll call for the vote. It's been moved by Councillor Ramsey and seconded by Councillor Adams that the recommendation, the application bears the recommendation of planning board. So, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried. And that, your worship, winds up the planning board meeting. So we will call for adjournment. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have another special council meeting. We may as well call the special council meeting to order, October the 14th, 2020. And as their approval for the agenda. Moved by Councillor Ramsey and seconded by Councillor Drawn. All in favor? Country nay, carried. Public meeting number 1. Are you back on the floor, Mr. Chairman?
I thank you, your worship. So tonight we're here to talk about 149 Industrial Crescent, discretionary use. Application, the background, and the application was received from Roberts Holding Inc. for 149 Industrial Crescent, PID number 889626. The application requires council approval to allow business/professional offices as a discretionary use in the light industrial M1 zone. The applicant is proposing to convert the existing 10,000 square foot office area into multiple business/professional offices. The existing office space was accessory to the original industrial business. Business or professional offices means a building or part thereof used for transacting business or for providing professional services to clients, such as by accountants, architects, engineers, insurance agents, financial advisors, lawyers, and realtors, but shall not include retail selling of any product on the premises, and does not include a medical office. And the map, your worship, shows the building formerly known as the CUMI building, I believe.
Known as what, sorry?
The CUMI building.
Okay, yeah.
The application was advertised in the October 2nd edition of The Guardian, and letters were mailed to property owners within 60 meters or 200 feet of the subject properties. So now is the time, your worship, that we would open the floor for comments and questions, and we would invite the applicant, Blaise Roberts, for any comments he may have. Welcome, Blaise. I'll get you to state your name and your address, please, just for the record.
Sure, I'd be happy to. The address of the business?
Personal.
Address? Sure. Council, Planning Board, Mayor Stewart. Thank you for calling this meeting and allowing us to make this application. My name is Blaise Roberts, as stated, 10081 Route 6 Stanley Bridge, Prince Edward Island. Here representing Roberts Holdings. So just to give a little bit more of the background than's in that kind of short period of the application. Our group recently purchased the 149 Industrial Crescent building here in Summerside. We provided a floor plan of that building in our application. This 44,617 square foot building was mostly vacant when we purchased, and we're quite happy to report that we've been able to fill the entirety of the 35,050 square foot industrial area with an array of industrial services, including manufacturing, storage, car detailing, and commercial cleaning services. As can be seen in our floor plan, the building contains approximately 9,567 square feet of office space on 2 levels at the front of the building. We've discussed this space with the current industrial tenants, and all have stated they have enough office space in their current units, and as such, we would like to enter the market with the remainder of the space to fill the building. Most of the industrial use tenants that we have there are office spaces adjacent to those industrial units that they are using. Our group does have our offices in there, but it's just too much space for us to fill it up with what we need. Given the setup of the building and the fact that these offices and meeting spaces already existed in their current form, we're not at this point putting up any walls or doing anything like that. It's just this is kind of what we've inherited. Our opinion would be that the highest and best use of that space is for professional and commercial tenants. I know that the neighbors that we have, being there's a computer repair shop, there's the new eco mechanic shop that's gone in, there's the science station, things like that. There's car detailing all over the place. We believe it would be a positive for that area to have some more commercial tenants in, to have some more vehicles and people to use those services. We already had inquiries with respect to professional tenants entering that space, one of which we had to decline due to zoning, and they were able to find other areas. No issue with this, but we'd certainly like to be able to re-enter the market to be able to fill this space. So for this reason, we're requesting the council approve our discretionary use application for that 9,567 square feet of front office space as delineated on the floor plan. The remainder of the building is currently used and as it's zoned for light industrial, and it will remain as such. It's only the existing office space that's already there that we're wishing to use for office space. We welcome any questions that you may have, but those are my submissions.
Do we have the floor plan?
Oh,
Yeah. We don't have it.
I haven't seen the floor plan.
I don't have a copy of it with us here.
I brought
We can always include it as well with our submission when we go to our planning board.
I have some, but yes, I can, and if I didn't send it in my application, I can certainly attach it as a PDF.
No
Thought
problem.
for sure
yeah.
I did,
And
but-
we'll include it in our.
Included in the package, the planning board. And
Certainly. Yep, my apologies if I didn't, I'll send it.
No, that's no problem.
Yep.
No problem. Any other questions or comments? Thank you very much for your well-prepared presentation.
Yeah, I have a
Councilor.
question. So you have 9,567 square feet for offices. How many offices does that?
It's a great
give you?
question. So, depends on how many people kind of want to go in. Right now, in the one area what we're using, if you allow me a moment to count, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 13 offices in that one space, and then there's a further 4 offices on the top level, so 17. But then there's also an area that we've been using as a lunchroom and a meeting room and a training room. We've got all of this extra space up there that right now is open space.
Right.
That could be used. There's, I don't know how many cubicles we tore out of that building, but a lot. And there's a lot of space that could be used for further offices should the need arise.
Right.
And then on the ground floor, there was 2 open spaces that had cubicles throughout the entire area when we got in there. But we ripped those out so we could put in new flooring. It was all carpet that, I don't know how long that building had been existing there, but I think the carpet was original.
Wow.
So we tore that up, and we'd put cubicles back, or we would do whatever we needed to do. The tenant that we had that wanted to come in and use it for a professional services space was a lawyer, and they wanted to just kind of put a little wall up and have 2 offices in one area and a meeting room on the other,
Right.
being in the kind of the southwest corner of the building. Again, we're not married to any of that. We don't.
Right.
Yeah,
So
we
it's
just
still
like-
open for discussion?
It
as far
certainly
as-
is. We
okay.
would just like to be able to. We're nervous to go back to market and see what was out there, even without having council approval to do so.
Right. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Any other, Councillor Adams?
Please, nice to see you. Just wanted to confirm, so the other business that's in the other part of the building now, that's the car detailing?
Yeah. So
Is
if I have no issue going through the tenants that we have.
Yeah, no, I just want to make, so there'll be nothing, like, that's going to remain, right? Like
That's going to remain. None
yeah,
of those
okay.
spaces are remaining. Actually,
Okay,
he
perfect.
recently needed an office, so, but I think his is okay because it's adjacent to his industrial purposes.
Yes, right.
But on the ground floor, on kind of the east side, he has that little area that, once the floor plan sent around, you'll see, he's using that as his office right now.
Perfect, thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
I do.
Deputy Mayor?
Great presentation. What I'm wondering, Mr. Roberts, is, so there are existing businesses that are in there now?
So right now, we have the space very recently filled. So in one unit at the back end, CRA is using it for storage.
Okay,
And they're there. And then we have Service Master in one spot, the Detail Warehouse in another, and then the remainder, and then Rito Industrial, who was in the building across the street, has recently, as this week, moving over their operations as a new owner's going into that
Okay.
building, that circle one. And then that central unit, I wish you could see the floor plan, but then there's another unit there, about 7,000 square feet, and another piece that's going to be used for storage, that we have a tenant that we're dealing with right now to set that up for storage for them.
okay, all right. So do you have any date in mind where you see that? And maybe this is a loaded question, and I don't mean it that way, but do you have any kind of a date in mind where you would see that it would be fully occupied and operating, proceeding after?
Yeah, so it's a great
Yeah,
question.
okay.
We would like it to be full and operating as soon as possible, of course, just liking to obviously fill the building. But right now, we don't feel as though we can do anything with the remainder of the space. We filled all the space we can possibly fill with the light industrial purpose that it's set out for in the zoning. So I believe that if we were going to fill the remainder of the space, we would need to have this discretionary use application filled, and then it'll be as quickly as we can get tenants. We haven't been, after we got that kind of, that one tenant that we had to turn away, we said, okay, we're not going to talk to anybody else about this space until we determine what we can do with it,
Right.
considering that we believe it's highest and best use to be
Mhm.
offices. If we were gonna try and convert it into storage space, it's awkward and not enough, and offices already exist there, so.
Okay, no, thank you very much.
Councillor
Yeah,
McDougall?
I just wanted to say congratulations, because that building has been standing there vacant for a long time, and I congratulate you for taking it over and putting some life back into it, so thank you.
It's a great building, it just needs a little,
It's a great
needs a
building.
little life, for sure.
It need a big push.
Councillor Durham?
Thanks, Councillor McFeely. Just a comment, like Councillor McDougall just made. Just wanted to thank you for doing business in Summerside, and I hope the process thus far has been easy for you. And as a fellow industrial park, I work there,
All right.
and hope to see you around the first barbecue next summer.
Yes, certainly, certainly.
Congratulations, and thanks again.
No, it's been great. I really appreciate it, and it's been fantastic. I made one call to Linda and got all of the information I needed. It was extraordinarily easy, and I appreciate that for sure.
Thank you.
Just through you, Mr. Chairman, just my final question, I guess maybe a compliment. How many people will you have working out of that building? I know you'd mentioned 13 offices so far, but you could probably house,
Ourselves,
yes, well,
our own group of companies there,
whoever's in the building.
whoever's in the building.
25 people working out of there or more? Or?
Right now, yes, I'm not sure how many like employee Service Master has, or even
Right.
Detail Warehouse right now, or the new Rito Industrial Products. I know they have a number, but it would certainly be at least that many. I would say upwards of 35 now already,
Good.
I would say. And
The reason I mentioned that, you probably saw where there's some work being done on Greenwood Drive to look after the traffic, and especially at the corner of Pope and Greenwood.
Certainly.
So there'll be some more
And there's new
vehicles
pavement
coming and
right around.
going, but when the vehicles are coming and going, they're either going to spend money or from spending it, so
That's it, exactly.
anyway, that's great.
We're
Thank
hoping
you.
both.
Councillor Snow.
Yeah, I just want to echo everybody's comments. Thank you, Blaise. You're obviously very prepared, and thank you for doing business in Summerside. Hopefully, around for a lot of years doing business with us.
Hope so,
Thanks.
yeah.
Okay, now's the time we open it up to the public. Not a big crowd tonight, so won't take long. There was letters mailed out to property owners within 200 feet, yeah. No, no. So there was no comments from anybody, so, and again, I would just echo what other folks have said, and I really appreciate doing business in Summerside, and, you know, every job is important, and as we continue to grow and build the economy, so we certainly appreciate your efforts in that regard, so thank you very much. So.
Okay. Thank you, Council. Thank you, Your Worship.
Yeah, so now just an explanation of the process. In order to process a discretionary use, the following steps are required. 1, the discretionary use is read at a public meeting. Step 1 took place, or is taking place as we speak this evening. Step 2, Planning Board reviews the application and prepares a recommendation to Council, and that will happen at Planning November 2nd? Yeah. 3, the discretionary use is read to be adopted by Council. The resolution will be either carried or defeated by a vote of Council. So steps 2 to 3 take place at Council's second meeting. And that would happen at probably the November Council meeting, or we have a special meeting there?
We don't have one that's aware, but happens actually the Tuesday is November 3rd. And depending on your guys' comfort level with the process, whether you, if there's another meeting called or whether you want to call one to process so they can get the leases out there, that's up to you guys.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
November 3rd is the planning board, and after that you guys can pick a council meeting.
Yeah.
In order to process it, Mr. Chairman, if we have to call a special meeting, and obviously there are no objections to it from
No.
what you just said.
We could
So-
probably do a special meeting that evening and get it done.
So the 3rd as well,
The 3rd as well.
what you're saying.
Yeah, proposing that, I guess. We have a special meeting that evening, right after planning board, and get it done so they can move on with their plans. Yeah. Okay.
November the 3rd, I remember that date. It's the date that I moved to Summerside, my first shift.
There you go. There you go. That wasn't yesterday.
November the 3rd always rings a bell. That's 100 times ago.
Please note that in accordance with section 5.20, the city zoning bylaw, any person who is dissatisfied by a decision of council in respect to the administration of this bylaw may appeal council's decision within 21 days to the Island Regulatory and Appeals Commission, IRAC. That's it, Your Worship. I guess we have...
Thank you. So you have the dates down for the next
Yeah.
meetings?
We have a couple of resolutions here, Your Worship. That's not on the...
On this one? For the next
Oh,
one.
the next one. Okay, okay, good, yeah.
Thank you. If there's any further information you require, get a hold of Tech Services or management here and in regards to the dates. Thank you. You still have the floor, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Your Worship. Public meeting number 2. Okay, 64 St. Clair Street, the zoning amendment. The background and application was received from RM Investment Inc. for 64 St. Clair Street, PID number 1077213. The purpose of the zoning amendment is to allow a semi-detached dwelling. The application is to amend the zoning bylaw as follows. Proposed amendment. Amend the zoning bylaw Schedule B, the zoning map from single-family residential R1 zone to low-density mixed residential R2 zone. Excuse me, Your Worship. And the map shows the subject property off of St. Clair. The application was advertised in the October 2nd edition of the Guardian, and letters were mailed to property owners within 60 meters or 200 feet of the subject properties. So single-family residential R1 zone, the current zoning. 15.1 of the bylaw, the purpose of this zone is to provide for low-density, single-family housing and other compatible uses. Permitted uses, 15.2, subject to bylaw requirements, R1 zone, permitted uses, single-family dwelling, accessory building, and assisted living. Discretionary uses, 15.3 of the bylaw, subject to council approval. Also, the asterisk also requires conditional approval. Zone 1 discretionary uses, a child care facility medium. Conditional uses, 15.4, subject to the developmental officer's approval as a home-based business, a secondary suite, or tourism establishment, vacation rental property. So low-density mixed residential R2 zone, the proposed zoning, 16.1, the purpose of this zone is provide for low-density housing in the form of single-family, semi-detached, and duplex dwellings and other compatible uses. Permitted uses, 16.2, subject to bylaw requirement. The R2 zone permitted uses, single-family dwelling, duplex dwelling, assisted living, semi-detached dwelling, accessory building. Discretionary uses under 16.1, subject to council approval, and the asterisk also requires conditional use approval. R2 zone, discretionary uses, child care facility medium, boarding house, social service agency, tourism establishment, bed and breakfast. Conditional uses, subject to a development officer approval. The R2 zone conditional uses, home-based business, secondary suite, tourism establishment, vacation rental property. So now is the time in the meeting that we would invite the applicant, if you have anything to say. Robert Moffat, welcome. And I would get you just to state your name and address just for the record.
Sure. Good evening, councilors, Deputy Mayor, Mayor Stewart. My name is Robert Moffat of Robert Moffat Construction, RM Investments. I've put in a proposal to rezone my lot from an R1 to an R2 to be able to build a semi-detached duplex along Sinclair Street. If you're aware of Sinclair Street, as you drive in, there's many semi-units along that street. There's about 15 down one side and 4 along the other. Well, I'd be located adjacent from those, right on the opposite corner. I think it would fit right in very, very nicely. I do not believe, as far as I know, anybody has had any objections of the announcement in the paper.
No, we have one written comment that Councillor will, yeah.
It's not in opposition. No. Just so you know, you don't
No, so I guess I'll open the floor if you have any questions, and thank you for your time.
Any questions from any councillors?
Just makes total sense. Like, it makes total sense.
I'm not sure why that was zoned R1 to start with when all the rest
When
of
all
them.
the rest
I
were-
think it was because of the.
The house next door.
It was next.
The house
Yeah.
on the front on Water Street.
Right.
The owner and the corner
Yeah.
bought those 2 lots.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I think the owner has since changed, and now these people have them.
Right,
Perfect.
okay.
I think it'd be a great fit.
Councillor, no, good. Councillor Adams.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say thank you, Robert. This is the area that I represent, and it will be much appreciated. And it's a great little street. They all look out for each other, so I'm sure they'll be eager to have 2 more sets of neighbors in there.
I think so.
That's great.
Councillor
Right by the stop sign.
Oh, I didn't hear you say my name. I said
Councillor Durand.
Yeah, no, I mean, I couldn't thank the last guy, not thank you, so thanks very much for wanting to build and add some development to our city, and
Yes, keep
I
the business
certainly
in
support it
Summerside.
for sure, yeah.
When, through you, Mr. Chairman, I didn't see any other lights on.
No, you're.
When do you
floor-
plan to start construction? I know the construction season is getting short, but you're looking at this fall?
No, probably next year.
Okay, so-
Probably, I'm pretty booked for this fall, so it'll be a next year project if the opportunity arises.
No, I was just wondering because of, may have a special meeting to process the other one. And if you were in a hurry to get construction going, we could put it on the agenda, but obviously, you just said,
Yeah, no, next year, later on would be fine.
Rob? Councillor Campbell?
Oh, just a question to Aaron. I think maybe, Aaron, the reason why we went from, had a limited amount of duplexes on that street wasn't because of traffic concerns?
Some of it was the existing subdivision was to the right or to the east was all single family. So when the developer committee proposed to a number of R2 ones, but made the ones that backed onto the existing housing R1. And yes, some of the ones did get adjusted later on. But basically, he went R1 along the existing neighborhood, and he went R2 on some of the other ones, and then R1 at the bottom. And then once they get into selling them, they found there was more demand for the R2s than the R1s, so they came in and reapplied these 4 to R2, and that was because there was a couple more that are just down from it that already were R1 and built, and they had promised them that they would not put them next to them, so that's why there was just the 4 at the top. There was a couple others down the other side.
Yeah, we rezoned a bunch of them back 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, it was these 4 and then a few more on the opposite side of the street further down.
I've got a daughter that lives down there, and anytime I go to visit, I always go, when I come out on the property, or back out on Water Street, I take the one where the lights are at anyway,
Yep.
so it
Yeah.
doesn't
Yeah,
affect traffic.
It wasn't a traffic, it was more or less just to fit in with the existing neighborhood and the abutting, and then it changed to meet the current need.
Councillor Adams?
I just thought of this after, just in case I do get asked. Since it's on a corner, but both driveways will be coming out on St. Clair, right?
Correct.
Okay, perfect. I just thought that might come up after. And the other one was, currently right now, you're doing which ones in Summerside?
Dory
Dory
Estates,
Dory,
and
right.
most of the
Right.
duplexes are semis on Gamble.
Perfect, excellent, thanks.
Congratulations on that little project in Dory. That,
Thank you.
that's, yeah. Mm.
It's a nice
Really
project.
nice, very nice. Oh, yeah, it's a huge
It's
project.
starting to take shape.
It sure is, yeah, it's lovely.
Rob, will these be for sale or rentals?
These will be rentals to begin with. Maybe
Okay.
down the road they might be for sale, but
Okay.
for the long, yeah.
Okay, any other questions or comments? We're good?
you had something to read in, did you, Mr.
I
Chairman?
do, your worship. Go through the rest of the process here, and then we'll
Oh,
do
okay,
the
sorry, I thought-
resolutions there. Now is the time we would ask for comments from the public, but there's not a lot here, so we'll move on. So thank you, Rob. You're welcome to have a seat.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. So the explanation of the excuse me, I'm going to read into the record the email attached from Kay and Russell Rogers. It's from Kay Rogers, dated Sunday, October 11th, to Linda Stevenson, City of Summerside. 364 St. Clair Street, Summerside. Russell and Kay Rogers have reviewed the request from the city and R&M Investments regarding zoning amendment for property number 1077221 for a semi-detached to be built in this location, and we approve 100% of this zoning bylaw amendment. Semi-detached dwellings are perfect for seniors. Downsizing are an excellent option to be offered within the city limits. Thank you for your time, Kay Newson Rogers and Russell Rogers. So that is in the record, a letter of support. Explanation of the process. In order to process a zoning bylaw amendment, the following steps are required. 1, the zoning bylaw amendment is read a first time and declared is read a first time at a first council meeting. 2, and that'll happen this evening, the zoning bylaw amendment is referred to planning board for review and recommendation. Steps 1 and 2 take place at the same meeting of council and will take place this evening. 3, the planning board reviews the application and prepares a recommendation to council. 4, the zoning bylaw amendment is read a second time and declared is read at a second council meeting. And 5, the zoning bylaw amendment is read to be adopted by council. The resolution will either be carried or defeated by a vote of council. If the zoning bylaw amendment is adopted by council, it is sent to the Ministry of Agriculture and Land for signature, and the amendment becomes official. and steps 3 to 5 would take place at council's second meeting. Please note that in accordance with section 5.20, the city zoning bylaw, any person who is dissatisfied by a decision of council in respect to the administration of this bylaw may appeal council's decision within 21 days to the Island Regulatory and Appeals Commission, IRAC. So, Your Worship, I do have a couple of resolutions that I will read into the record. The first one is Resolution COS 20-093, moved by myself, Councillor Brian McFeely, seconded by Councillor Kerry Adams. Whereas an application was received from RM Investments, Inc. for a zoning amendment to PID number 1077213 from single-family residential R1 zone to low-density mixed residential R2 zone under the City of Summerside zoning bylaw. Be resolved that zoning amendment 366 be hereby declared as read at first time. And I'll read into the record, Your Worship, Schedule B, which is attached, the zoning amendment 366, a bylaw to amend the City of Summerside zoning bylaw. The Council of the City of Summerside, under authority vested in it by Section 18 and Section 19 of the Planning Act, RSPEI 1988, Cap P-8, hereby enacts as follows. 1. The zoning for PID number 1077213 shown on Schedule B of the City of Summerside zoning bylaw is designated as low-density mixed residential R2 zone, hereby excluding it from its former designation as single-family residential R1 zone. And the map showing the subject property is attached, Your Worship.
Moved by Councillor McFeely and seconded by Councillor Adams. Any questions on the resolution? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Contrary nay. Motion carried unanimously.
And the second resolution, Your Worship, is Resolution COS 20-094, moved by myself, Councillor Brian McFeely, and seconded by Councillor Barb Ramsey. Whereas an application was received from RM Investments, Inc. for a zoning amendment for PID number 1077213 from single-family residential R1 zone to low-density mixed residential R2 zone under the City of Summerside zoning bylaw. And whereas zoning bylaw amendment 366, a bylaw to amend the City of Summerside zoning bylaw, was read and declared as read the first time at this council meeting, be it resolved that zoning bylaw amendment 366, a bylaw to amend the City of Summerside zoning bylaw, be hereby referred back to the Planning Board for review and recommendation. And that would happen on, was it November 3rd? Yeah.
Moved by Councillor McFeely and seconded by Councillor Ramsey. Any questions on the resolution? All in favor say aye. Contrary nay. Motion carried unanimously. So it appears we've gotten to the end of the agenda. Is there, I don't believe there's anything for the Committee of the Whole, so is there a motion to adjourn? Moved by Deputy Mayor and seconded by Councillor McFeely.